All right. Well, welcome to Flip Your Friday. I'm your host, Wynn Silberman. This is my co-host, Casey LeBlanc. We have a very special guest here in Chase Winovich. But here's the deal. I just want to start here, and I hope I'm talking slow enough, Casey, for you. But here's the deal. We have rebranded a little bit. I don't know if you guys have noticed, but we've taken some time off because actually some cool things have happened. For example, we actually have our first sponsor, which is huge. I think they paid us all in popcorn. So but it's cool.
Which is valuable.
On the last podcast we had, we generated $6.30 from YouTube.
That's called profit.
That's profit. Can't go broke without making a profit.
That's right.
So I just wanted to settle that in. And then now we can begin, if that's okay with you.
What a great intro.
Well
done.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
So Chase, I'd like to just get right into things. I know that you played football at Michigan. They do play football there. But that's obviously a prominent school. It's a lot of people's dreams to be able to play at Michigan, and that's fucking awesome. And not only that, you were a third-round pick for the Patriots. He did not get drafted. He did play a little bit, but he didn't get drafted. But that's phenomenal, and there's just a lot of allure. There's a lot of childhood dreams that are about the NFL, and I think that's very commendable and awesome. And I wanted to thank you for being here. Okay, but with that being said, I want to jump right into a controversy that's aligned the NFL for a couple of years now. Look, you were active this year. You had a fucking helmet on this year. Your last team was the Dolphins. You had a stat line this year. And you chose to walk away from the game after playing for 6 years, right?
5 years.
5 years. I mean, so it started with the Patriots, then you're with the Browns. Then the Texans, right?
Yep.
And then Miami.
Yep.
So I mean, you've had a career and you could have continued to keep going, but you had a head injury, and it was the third concussion? Second concussion. Yeah. But you decided to...
Each one counts.
Yeah, but those checks are nice. Yeah. Those checks are nice, and you called and told me because I wanted to see how you're doing. It's like, no, man, I think it's enough. And I would just like to hear your perspective on this.
Yeah, so it's been one heck of a journey. Whenever I went to the University of Michigan, obviously I was recruited there. I was a scholarship player. I ended up, my first day of practice in spring, I was a linebacker at the time, and Coach Harbaugh was like, hey, listen, we got some injuries at tight end. We got some injuries at tight end. We want you to come over and play. We got some speed. Let's see how you do. And so I went over. I played running back and tight end, but found myself, I got an injury in my PCL, ended up like seventh string tight end, buried on the depth chart. And, to go from that to MVP and then to get drafted to the third round, it was like I was already all in the positive. Whenever I was, I'll get to this in a second, but like whenever I was like thinking about retiring and like just moving on, I got to witness like people's reactions and stuff, and I thought it was really interesting. But going back to your point about injuries, right? It's obviously a violent game, 100% injury rate. Every person that steps on the football field deals with something along their journey. Mine was like it was like a flurry from if we're sticking to the injury side of things. It's like I had dealt with like one surgery to another injury. Do you want like the full breakdown, or do you want
just go for it?
Okay, cool. I mean, so I was up in New Hampshire in the off season of probably, it was like right around COVID, I think, so maybe like 2021, like that off season. And something about that place, it's like the crust is thinner, they say. And what that means is that like, it's not like the mantle, it's like to the veil to the other side of like the spiritual realm. And I swear I got a download, like my posture changed, like how do you describe a human experience?
All in New Hampshire.
All in New Hampshire. My experience changed, like certain things I felt like romantic.
How long were you there?
I was there probably for like 2 months. I had a private chef. This lady gave us this 10,000 square foot house right on the water, right on this beautiful golf course. It was like I got with this trainer, and he taught me about like, positioning my core and my spine. And it was like I opened things up. It was like I got a download from the universe. My beard grew thicker. And it was like such a crazy experience, right?
How long ago was this for context?
This is 21.
21,
yeah,
okay.
Yeah, 2021. Like March-ish, February-ish to like April-ish. And so going into that summer, I was working out and I was just running like I normally do. And before that, I had really had a long streak of just being healthy and no injuries. And I got a sports hernia, And so I got surgery on, it was a double sports hernia. So I had both repaired.
It's the worst.
Exactly.
8 months at least, right?
Well, it was a few months to come back, and I came back and I did my thing and I played that year. But it was one of those things where I was like, chugging along, making my way downtown, as they say, and pulled my hamstring. I was on my right side pretty bad. And the off season comes around. I was up back in New Hampshire, had a dream. This guy came to me. He's just like, "It's time to cut your hair. Your journey has come to an end here. You learned all the lessons you need to learn." And so I woke up in the morning. I was like, "Holy, this is something here. I'm gonna go cut my hair." Called my mom up, got my hair cut. The girl made
because your hair is an image. I mean,
Yeah, I had it
when I
on for
think
7
MVP,
years.
and again, MVP of what? What were you?
2018.
Yeah, you had long hair. That's a big deal. That's your image. That's what teams draft on. Teams like white linebackers with long hair. That's just the thing.
Yeah, they love it.
It just is. It just is.
So they draft on long hair.
Dude, I swear to God.
It definitely
It's
helped.
Samson and Delilah type shit, okay?
It definitely helped my case.
It does.
But I had real long hair, right? So I go into the facilities, and I've told this story before, but it's just funny. It's true. It's like, I go in there. I'm like, I'm going to show them I've been working out. This a couple days later. And I go into, the Grim Reaper calls me in before I was about to go out for the workout. And I was like, okay, this is something here. Let's see what he's talking about.
For those that don't know what the Grim Reaper is, can you just
I'll explain. I'll touch on that.
Okay.
The Grim Reaper is somebody that in the football world, it's like, this guy comes around. Each team has their own individual person responsible for grabbing somebody, taking them to the office, and basically they send them off into oblivion to who knows where, to another team, or just release them.
Just get the fuck out of here.
Exactly.
You ain't got to leave.
It's just like they die. In terms of the team, right?
Right.
And so the Grim Reaper calls me into Bill's office, and Bill's sitting there with Matt Patricia, and he's like, "I'm gonna have a
Bill
seat."
meaning Belichick.
Bill Belichick, yes, the head coach for the Patriots.
By the way, you led the team in sacks. Right?
Yeah, I led the team in sacks in 2020, and
like this is not, you're not like a what I call a walk-on, but you're not a PFA. This is your legitimate sack leader here. Okay,
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah. No, it's good color, good
thank you.
good context.
Thank
You're welcome. And so Bill, he's just like, "Thank you for all your hard work. We're trading you to the Cleveland Browns." And I look at him, I'm like, "Bill, it's just a haircut, man. Like it's gonna grow back." Like,
I bet you. I guarantee you, it was part of it.
I was like, "It's just a haircut. Like it's not that serious. Like give me 6 months."
Like Bill, New Hampshire. Fucking told me to do it.
I know, exactly.
I had a dream.
I had a dream. Like, so anyways, I get traded, and right in the previous season, I already said I had the sports hernia and the hamstring. Go to the Cleveland Browns. First preseason game, I'm running just a normal play routine. 1,000 times I've done it. Pull my hamstring again, a different side this time, and then I come back from that, pull my hamstring again, and so I come back from that, and then I dislocate my knee. Like the game following that, play through the rest of the season, end up.
When you dislocate, do you mean your kneecap goes and slides down your calf?
It hyperextended, so it's
okay.
just like caused like damage to my knee or whatever.
Okay.
But I ended up playing through it, got like some steroid shots, et cetera, et cetera. As they say, sometimes you just got to thug it out.
Yeah.
And finished the season, was a starter for them and whatnot, and signed with the Houston Texans. So I'm like, okay, listen, I've had some unfortunate luck in terms of like, injuries, whatever. That's behind me. And I'm striking this pad during the offseason, and my thumb, you can see like I've got scars to prove it. It's like my thumb went the wrong way. Like normally your thumb's supposed to go this way.
Just sublexed.
Yeah, it's like it went this way. And
you got football fingers too.
Yeah.
They all go every which direction. Like people see those all the time, and they're like, "Hey man, what's wrong?" Like, yeah, it's a long story.
Exactly.
Yeah, there's a story to
I
each
love
one
this
of them.
party check. Yeah,
and you can remember each one. You know exactly where it happens because when you see a finger and it's pointed
that way,
east and west,
Yeah.
you're like, "Hey, this shit
Rasheed
ain't."
Davis is. We have a friend of ours who played for the Bears for 7 years, and he's got this thing. It's called a finger, and I've offered to pay for the surgery.
Yeah.
I've offered to pay for it, and he won't do it. It's horrible.
Yeah.
But I'm sorry.
Yeah,
No, it's okay. I've asked about getting it amputated, my pinky, because like for those that aren't,
Lot was gonna
watching,
do
it's
that.
Like it doesn't not supposed to go that way, and it's just like kind of clunky trying to hit it.
Oh yeah, it's weird. That's a weird hand.
Yeah. So it's a little unfortunate, but yeah, got surgery on that. Was rehabbing that, and then I went to plant with my knee, broke off a piece of cartilage in my knee, and had to get surgery on that.
They're starting to build up. These
Exactly.
injuries are
So
starting
it's
to
just
build up.
like this is like one after another, and then I came back from that, and I found out I tore my labrum in my hip, and it was just like okay, so I was dealing with that. And then I came back from that and, I played against the Patriots. And it was like the whole time I'm telling myself, like, we had this song called Sink the Bismarck. There's a remix on YouTube, but it's like, gotta sink the Bismarck because the world depends on us. And it's like a dubstep remix. And I was like bumping it in like the training room and stuff. Like, I'm coming back, I'm getting a sack. Like, hell or high water, I don't care about the drag myself on the field. I'm getting a sack against these guys. It was a preseason, like, it doesn't matter to most people, but like, my pride was on the line.
Right.
It's like,
you're gonna trade me, huh?
Exactly. So it was my first opportunity, came back, got the sack, and following week we had a joint practice with the Dolphins, and Coach McDaniels is like a mastermind at like bringing these guys in motion in such a way where like he'll actually turn the quarterbacks back. It's just like as a defensive end,
it's a mind fuck.
Exactly. And so sure enough, I reported it. They released me. I was in New York City and I was with my girlfriend, I was just thinking about it and just like, listen, like my contract was guaranteed. Like I just, it's like I wanted to play for the Texans. I put it all on the line to play football. And, Dolphins called me up and I said, hey, listen, they got a great team. I love the coach. I like the defense and let's go give this a try. So I went down there and was just, chugging along, doing my thing, helping, trying to do my best.
This year,
a few months ago. And then it was in practice again, and it was a weird play because once again you get hit in the head all the time, but you don't really feel anything most of the time.
A couple lights.
Yeah, exactly.
No, but it's true. Like a hit you've taken before, but it hits you in the right spot at
the right spot,
time,
and like exactly,
and
it
you
catches you
feel
off.
different, right? Like there's just a level when you get a concussion. I've had a couple. You think you're all right, or you're trying to be all right, but you're just not. There's just something off. Yeah. Your whole equilibrium is just different.
Yeah, it's one of those things. It's like the human experience. It's hard to describe.
Have you ever had a concussion?
Yeah, I have.
Oh, you have. Okay.
Yeah. Oh, pal.
Nice.
He's gonna dig.
No, because there's a lot of people who've never had a concussion. They play.
Yeah. No. Well, think about it. Even all the way when I didn't play Pee Wee. I don't know if you played whatever you call that, Pop Warner. But in high school, I had a couple concussions. But you were told to get back in there if you knew the president was.
Times have changed for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so you get your second one.
Yeah, so I got my second one. At that point in time, it's like it's just kind of you're evaluating the situation, and it's just one of those things where it's you gotta really think about this. And once again, you're the part of your body that's being forced to make this decision is the part that's injured, and at the end of the day, it's a trade off. You're trading your one part of your body, one part of your being. You could argue, some would argue that your brain is pretty important. I decided, hey, listen, no knock against my former self for making this decision. No knock against the current players that make the decision. Love football, want to see it flourish, but decided that trade off wasn't for me anymore. And at that point in time, at the same time, though, it's like, I had this overwhelming feeling, and it's hard to articulate, but it's like my grandma, she prays for me every day. I felt that her prayers for me were answered, were being answered. And it was something told me that it was a promotion, not a demotion. And I felt like, it's like if I take this glass here and I throw it up against the wall, it'll shatter into 1,000 pieces, right? But it's hard to heal something. It's hard to repair. And I felt that what I was being called to do was more along the lines of repair at this point rather than destroy.
So let me ask you a question. What do you think of the current state of the NFL? So playing in when supposedly they've made it safer, and through that you've encountered 2 concussions. What do you feel about the NFL, the safety, the protocols, things that they're doing? Is it kind of more to cover your ass? Is it something that you find that there is safety measures that are impacting, influencing the game? What is what's your take on it?
They're full of shit, but go ahead.
Yeah, I feel like it's one of those things that because of a lot of outside pieces and just what I'm looking to do in the world, it's like I can't really speak my true opinion necessarily, regardless if it's good or bad. It's just one of those things where it's like, at the end of the day, people need to just look at it holistically, value themselves, and come to their own conclusions.
So when you decided, hey, I'm going to step away from the game that you've played your whole life, right? There's a level of, I guess, discipline that clearly it takes to play that. But then when you get to choose, most of the time it's others choosing for you. So you're just left with no other choice. You're forced into going out and figuring it out, right? But you had a choice. So you make the choice, say, I'm going to walk away. What was that like? Because did you have something set up? Was there a plan in place, or were you just, hey, my calling is to do something different. I'm going to figure it out starting right now.
Yeah, that's a great question. I'd say for me personally, it was one of those things where, my whole life, it was like just football. Like it was just like, it's just like, I couldn't even imagine, like, I have no idea what else I would do. In college, I majored in evolutionary.
It provides you an identity and purpose and everything.
Sorry, wait, you majored in what?
Evolutionary anthropology. So it was early on.
The evolution of humans.
I understood.
Anthro
That
is
is
human. Ologist study of, just so you know.
that's an interesting one.
I'll ask you guys a question. How old are dinosaurs, do you guys think? Like T-Rex, how long ago do you think he was walking on Earth?
Fuck.
Why don't you? Okay, here's what we're gonna do.
No. How long do you think?
No. But give us A, B, or C. Give us 3 options. I'll take.
That's good negotiation. Thank you, Casey.
Millions of years, thousands of years, hundreds of years.
Well, millions, I would assume. Although,
Thousands.
Maybe thousands. 200,000.
It's millions. But most people, they based off what they're taught in school, are like, oh, it's millions of years dinosaurs, right? But you say
It's millions of years dinosaurs.
Millions of years, yes. Wow. Millions of years.
That's crazy.
60 million years, I believe.
No shit.
Regardless, it's not necessarily the factual like amount, right? It's more so the overarching premise.
Right.
If I asked you, how long have we been humans? How long
Thousands.
would you say?
I would argue some aren't even human.
Thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands.
Well, Neolithic,
tens of thousands.
Cro-Magnon, Lucy was found in.
Okay.
Right. Lucy was the first human remains, right?
Yeah.
So as in Paris, so that's like 200,000.
Yeah, it's 200,000 years, right? Exactly. That's
Again, Northwestern education, but go ahead.
It's the difference right there.
A-State school. Hey, I don't make any qualms about it.
We want to get into that later, though.
Yeah. But no. Hey, if we're talking about useless facts, you guys are gonna win every single time.
Let's go win.
Thank you.
Let's go. We got the useless fact down. We got that unlocked.
Yeah. For anyone listening, they already talked about this before the podcast.
There's no way. All right,
that's fine.
Let's exclude Lucy. Let's keep going.
Yeah. So the premise was, honestly, I saw a person get hawked down by a saber-tooth tiger, this like early like primate looking creature, and I was like, holy hell. So like we went through that.
Yeah.
Like we survived that. I just felt like, because we live in this society where it's like, okay, you go to school, dinosaurs millions of years old, but humans, like, because some textbook
not so much,
or some religious script says, hey, Earth is only 10,000 years old or whatever. Humans walked with dinosaurs and all this stuff, where it's like there's a clear conflict here going on, and it was really interesting for me. But I guess the point of all that is that, like, I felt that, like, whenever I got in the NFL, it was like my mindset sort of shifted, and it went from being a place of like, hey, listen, football is everything. Football is all I want to do. Like, I'd give anything, my whole body, my being for this, to, I had this injury where I was tackling this short little running back on the Patriots. And it was a live tackling drill in practice. I was a starter on the Patriots at the time, and I went to hit him. And, I tackled him, but he like speared me once again, and my whole body went numb, and it was like I was laying there. I was like, oh, it's like my whole body, like the feeling of not having any feeling
scary.
Has a feeling.
Yeah.
It's hard to describe unless you've experienced it.
Right.
And so it's just like, once that moment, I was just like, I went up to, somebody like on the PA, and I said,
That's weird.
You guys heard that too, right?
That was the tackle at the Patriots.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We got sound effects.
That's basically the noise that I did.
You were really manifesting some weird shit, but it's
great.
I
know, exactly. But I was just like, it's just like, if I got hit by a bus, how long would it take for them to replace me? A minute? And he started laughing. He's like, probably less.
Yeah.
And so in that moment, it kind of dawned on me that, hey, listen, it's like I know that I can think in different ways than, some of my peers can. I felt like, just in general, not just football. It's like, how can I use my mind rather than just my physical being? So I started dabbling in some business stuff in the off season just to kind of get acquainted with it. And, it's like, it's one of those things that, like, once the seed is planted, in your mind, in your heart, it's not, I hate to say the beginning of the end of my football career, but it's the beginning of a new chapter. It's, you know, it was a matter of my life and the situation with the concussions and my injuries, you know, bringing it to fruition. And so it was almost like when that time came with that second concussion, that it was almost like it became so abundantly clear.
You know, it's very interesting that you say that. Obviously, I was an agent for almost 20 years, an NFL agent, and represented a number of guys, over 100 NFL athletes. The moment an athlete would call me, because it's arguably one of the most competitive leagues in the world, the moment an athlete would call me and say, I just don't know if I feel like doing this, it's over.
It's over.
It's over.
It's
over.
That's a wrap. Yeah.
That's how competitive it is.
Well, it's interesting when I want to talk to you about it a little bit is if you can, one of my passion projects is how to transition from football to a career, specifically entrepreneurship. I loved it. It gives me the same rush as I felt, maybe not physically, but mentally. And as you looked out into, you know, the unknown, did you already know, hey, I want to be an entrepreneur? Did you say, hey, I want to go work for someone? Or could you leverage some of your name and likeness? You were dabbling in things, but dabbling in things is different because you're collecting a paycheck. I always tell people you're not an entrepreneur until your efforts equal your pay, and that like risk is real. What did you do? What was your like transition from, hey, I have my second concussion. I'm not willing to risk a third. I believe in myself. And then 100% of your income is geared off of whatever you can do to create revenue or money or opportunity. Like, what was that like?
Yeah. So I guess all I can say is that I'm crazy, and I couldn't imagine being normal. Like, my brain moves 1,000 miles per hour. And I know just from, you know, anecdotal experiences, when I'm convicted on something, I feel that there's nothing that I can't do. There's nothing that I can't accomplish. And, you know, I just think that there's a lot more that goes with that, but
which we want to dive into. I think that's a really good point, right? When you make a decision, right? Hey, I'm done with football, so I made the decision, hey, I'm going to go do this, and you don't believe that there's anything that can stand in your way.
Well, I had already begun kind of this, you know, fleshing out this idea and piecing together the team to kind of make it happen, like very serendipitously.
So you had 1 foot out the door.
Oh, I didn't have 1 foot out the door necessarily. It was kind of like, hey, listen, I'm going to focus on football. However, I'm going to like kind of like lend my presence to like kind of like, you know, like this piece, because I felt like my success on the football field would help, you know, help with the fruition of
and also too, you know, there's an expiration date. Right there, it's like death. You know it's going to happen. You just don't know when. You know you're out of the NFL. You just don't know when.
Yeah, I feel like, and I mean this like in the most respectful way possible, but I just feel like that's a very typical like response where I didn't view it necessarily from a fear-based thing. It's like, oh, it's going to happen, or, you know, it's like the inevitable, or like it's like almost like what am I being called to do? What am I being called to serve to the universe in which ways? And for me, I felt that I had this idea, right? You know, it was early on in my career at the Patriots. I came across that, you know, they were talking about this, how one of my teammates on the Patriots, somebody took a picture of him while he was sleeping and put it online
as a receiver.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, we don't have to name him, but
exactly. And somebody put it online, and my premise was like, he didn't do anything wrong. He just fell asleep. And I was like, well, that could be me. That could be my other teammates. That could be the entire NFL. Like, you know, anybody subject to that. Like, you're sleeping. How do you know someone's taking a picture of you or they're not? Like, and so, you know, and I was thinking about it, and then I was, you know, a situation with a dog walker, like posting pictures of my dog, or that, you know, that example, right? Or babysitters, or, you know, people that you just meet that you're just like letting into your orbit. And so, you know, the premise is, why should somebody be able to come into your life that you don't know and be able to share your story without any repercussions? You know, it's like, I can't share their story. Nobody, like, I could, but nobody really will.
Well, actually, you can now with AI.
What can you do?
You can now with AI. You can literally I can have President Obama making out with President Biden right now through AI.
I don't believe you.
I swear to God.
Can you make out with you too?
Image and likeness. It's
Yes.
not. He's not talking about real. Yeah, he's not talking about real.
Yeah,
life.
exactly.
That's one of the dangers of AI. But
1,000%.
Yeah.
And that's a great point, is that like there's other issues and nuances with this sort of reality that we're also facing. But like,
how do you solve that?
But what's
Specifically
I miss it. What's the business? Like you
so
had an idea.
The business is this. Can you grab my phone real quick, somebody? Please. Thank you. I'll show you the business right here.
Don't worry, we have sound effects going off at weird times. We've got background stuff going on. This is all like have a cocktail, just enjoy yourself. Make it relax.
Exactly. Yeah. So the business is this. So we did a thorough market analysis, and we saw that there's 342 other e-signature companies. The two things they don't do is, number one, they don't have a solution for in-person signatures, which is extremely relevant if you're talking about NDAs. Like my process was I had to go get a lawyer. I didn't want to get a slap lawyer. I wanted to get an elite lawyer, a good lawyer. $1,000 at least it cost me. I had to go get a printer. I had to get paper. I had to get ink. I had to have pens. It was like awkward. I had to sit in front of them. I went out somewhere. I had to have paper for everybody. Or the alternative was like DocuSign. It was just like, like I couldn't imagine asking a girl that I had just met to like, hey, what's your email? I want to DocuSign this document. Yeah. It just seemed very antiquated. So what we created was this. So, and I could show it for those, I could tell you about it for those that can't see.
So there's a QR.
So there's a QR code, right? Mm-hmm. And so we patented the ability to sign a legal document via a QR code. And the same thing for, NFC. So basically, if you wanted to tap your phone, it could just pop up on your phone by scanning it, or you could have 10 people sign it or 10 people tap it. Pops up on your phone. The document's there. It has a couple bullet points for what you're going to be agreeing to, and you can click sign. So for whether it's for business, whether it's for NDA, like, hey, listen, you don't say nothing about me, or what I think is ultimately probably the best is a mutual NDA, meaning like whatever happens between us stays between us.
So you're talking about pretty standardized legal documents that you're trying to sign with people that potentially could use something against you,
it could be anything, because it's like most recently Ryan Shazier, his wife shared a bunch of screenshots from some conversation he had with another woman. The thing is, Ryan Shazier never gets an opportunity to actually go out in the court of public opinion and say, people aren't like, hold on guys, wait a second here.
It's already over.
It's already over. He's cooked. His reputation forever is tarnished. Similar to how the glass, you throw it up against the wall, it's done. Dunzo. Like there's nothing he could do or say or she could say that reverses the damage that's already been done, because it's not as catchy the way it works. So it's like, to me, it's so obvious that people already sign NDAs. Right now, the process is very antiquated. So we did that. And then we also are working with a law firm now to create also a first, from our research, right? A lawyer or law firm verified contract. So on one hand, we actually give them the contract. In my instruction to the lawyer was like, imagine if you were making this he's a Pittsburgh lawyer, but imagine if you're making this for Sidney Crosby or for your kid. It's like, it's got to be that level, like you can trust. And in addition to that, we're looking into offering insurance to those people, so that it's like, if you sign under these circumstances with this process, if someone violates it, we'll actually go after them on your behalf to give our contracts a little bit more substance, which you can't do if you just have any random document.
So
keep asking.
I'm a state school guy, right? So I have to dumb it down to the most basic thing. So how does signing through a QR code solve the Ryan Shazier situation?
Well, the thing is, and I keep going back to the glass, because the glass is perfectly intact as it is. So is his reputation, his name, image, and likeness. But once you post it online, once you do that, once you shatter that glass, it's too late. So the NDA is one of those things. Most legal documents that don't actually go to court. However, it could. Like if she sold it right now, if there was like child support that he had to pay, he could potentially I'm not saying that it's specifically child support. I'm just using it as an example, where it's like, it's a deterrent. And that's ultimately what it serves as the most, is that in her mind, she knows that if she's
done something and she can't do it anymore because she's done
No, it deters her from the first.
Deters it from
the first
even
one.
Posting those screenshots in the first place, because she knows that if she does that.
So you're saying like the Ryan Shaziers of the world would walk around on their phone, in human interaction, they would be able to sign NDAs to deter some of the behaviors that potentially could happen for people that are famous. Is that
exactly? That's the premise.
That's the premise. That's the problem that you're trying to solve.
Well, initially, yes.
Initially, okay. And so, Is it just the fact that you can have it on your phone? It's easy. There's a standard NDA. I mean, I've signed thousands of NDAs, and they're pretty standard, right? And that's exactly what it does. Like, do they hold them in court? Well, most of the time they don't get to court.
Exactly.
99.9% of the time. And you're
but
just
you think about it, and I know anecdotally, like people that I've made sign NDAs.
So you're just making it easy for somebody to sign.
Make it easier because, like I said, nobody solved for an electronic solution, which we filed the patent for back in November.
Got it.
Nobody's created the electronic solution. Nobody's actually providing these documents to them. So
in practicality, right? Like if you're famous, you have interactions with your house cleaner, with your dog walker, with your,
and all of them are under NDA.
Every one of them.
And how do they store them? If it's paper, they got to have filing cabinets. It's like, the trees.
No one's doing that, are they?
People have paper NDAs all the time. Yeah. I mean, I have conversations on this topic all the time. I mean, otherwise,
but also too, like you have to prepare it. You have to
you got to print it. You got to have ink. It's like there's so many things. If you go out in public, you're on a yacht. You're Leonardo DiCaprio, for example. He's not a client of Signet yet, but he should be. It's like imagine if you just had it on the wall.
What's the name of the company? We'll make sure.
Signet. Signet like the ring.
Signet. Okay.
Signet like the ring.
Okay. So Signet. Okay. So yeah, you want to be able to sign legal documents quickly and easily.
Exactly. And
I'm in the business. That's my business.
Yes.
Is signing documents. We move information and documentation and legal exposure back and forth. And electronic signature is how we were one of the first actually in our space. And it's not easy. And it actually still is. Now you're seeing more video signature and stuff like you're getting into the notarization part of it. Are you guys doing anything with that where you're?
So I know that there's already a couple companies. I got a burp. Sorry.
That's right.
I know there's already a couple companies.
Maybe partnering with some of that
in this space that do notaries and stuff. I don't know if that's necessarily our forte. I think that there's two avenues that initially we want to target. Number one is athletes, artists, and content creators.
Okay.
Number two is we want to transition to startups. Because if you're a startup, think about it, you enter the world, like there's startups that happen all the time. They have great ideas that help. We want to help that process. We want to help these people that are trying to solve problems with technology. But if they do that, they got to go to a lawyer. That is exponential, $10,000 at least, to get all the documents you need through like the proper channels, like i.e. a lawyer. We want to work with a lawyer to actually create those documents on the front end. But also it's like, what distinguishes one e-signature company from another? Like if I ask most people on the street, what is DocuSign versus PanaDoc versus, DropSign?
Cost.
Exactly. It's the cost, and it's like
DocuSign has a little bit of a Kleenex factor to it where it's
1000%. It's a verb. It's like Uber. You call Lyft, but you're going to say, hey, I'm going to call an Uber. It's just like, and we understood that. That's why it's like the way we're positioning ourselves is targeting waters that aren't so entrenched with these bigger players.
So how do you go to market? How do you take this to the NFL, to the NBA, to athletes, to singers, content creators? How do you
go right where they coagulate? The star power coagulates, as I put it. So no, LA.
Good point.
LA maybe,
Good
but like agencies, PAs for example. You could sell one person or you could sell 1,700 in the case of the NFL. So, it's like, it's an obvious value add that it's like at the end of the day, they want to make their players look good. They have a vested interest, and the NDAs are just one example of a document that is, is very, very, like it works obviously. Otherwise people wouldn't have people sign NDAs if it didn't work. And then secondly, it's like, just like I said, it's one example because there's tattoo affidavits. So if, say for example, a player gets a tattoo, who owns that tattoo? Like, like you are the artist, like you took the picture, right? Like similar. It's like, does the person that gets the tattoo that pays for it, how do you, like, what substance, like, do you have? And so the tattoo affidavit helps, like.
So you're taking a group of standardized documents and just making it easy for someone who's famous to be able to get those done like, almost on the fly.
Well, they're constant. It's evergreen. Michael Jordan's always going to be Michael Jordan, right? Far after he's done shooting hoops. Same thing with these clientele, and same thing for like, think about it. They're always coming in 300 or so, whatever, come into the NFL every year. It's like what documents they use to actually protect themselves. Same thing with college. It's like athletic departments. Once again, it's like it's an.
But isn't there just so many people that they're interacting with? Like their agent and there's a gatekeeper to most famous people, right? In most interactions that they're doing. I mean,
to your point, it's like if you're Leonardo DiCaprio, sure, you're gonna have your manager, but what process do they use? They're paying for some.
Well, let's not take Leonardo. Leonardo's the top of the top. Sure. He's got a team of people that are doing all that shit for him, right? But I'm just saying like a 6th round draft pick who is, making $1 million a year on a team who's, who plays 4 or 5 years.
I would say his name, image, and likeness is even more important.
I agree, but I'm saying like
one bad article.
I totally
about
agree,
that person,
but that's not my point.
Yeah, he's gone.
The Grim Reaper gets his ass, and you'll never see him again.
But that's not my point. My point is that he doesn't have the ability to afford a team like of gatekeepers.
1,000%.
So he's got 50 people that he's interacting with. Does he go and try to get these documents signed by everybody? Does it become a paranoia where? Do you have what obstacles are you finding when you're talking about famous people and you're like, hey, I need you to sign fucking documents with everybody because you're fucking exposed in like a way in which like, the normal person is not. Well, but a guy who's making $1 million in the NFL, he's taking home 500,000, but he's working with 100 people because he's overwhelmed.
Yeah, I mean, if you're working with 100 people and you're playing in the NFL, I think you probably
a quarterback.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like it's probably the more extreme. I'd say more likely than not that you have your team built out. That it's like there's certain instances that really can cause what's the right word for it? Like an uneven distribution of damage to your likeness.
Got it. Okay.
And so if you're out on a date for the first time with a woman, right? There's something to be said for is someone telling the truth, right? Because I dated a compulsive liar once. That's a story for.
That's what we want to get into.
Exactly.
Yeah, the compulsive.
You told me that you weren't going to tell him about us.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cheers. Yeah. Okay, so
it's like
so on a first date, you open with, hey, if you want the whole truth, nothing.
Scan,
you know what? I had that with Sam.
No one's asking you. Your dating life is long retired.
I'm not talking about dating life.
No, we want to talk to the guy.
I'm just saying it exists. It exists with the World Series MVP.
I understand. No, I get it. No, I understand. But is that something that you've done where you sit down on a first date and you're like, hey, tap this?
Yes.
Have you really?
Well, I haven't done it.
What is the reaction
with our app yet? Because like I said, we're working with a lawyer. Like I'm not necessarily pushing this in the mass distribution yet, as I will.
Sure.
But we're probably maybe a week or two away. Like we're in the final talks with the law firm too.
But you've done this. You've sat down on a first date.
I've sat down, with NDAs and all that stuff. Exactly. My logic.
I think it would probably turn a chick on.
Yeah. I'm going with this.
It is.
I'm going with this. I've become a new client.
An instant close.
And also too, it's like it creates some level of boundary.
Yeah.
And it's if you present it as a mutual NDA. It's not as you don't say anything about me.
Yeah, it's not I'm an asshole. It's like here I'm very serious. I'm up here.
Well, with social media too. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's just like, hey, let's keep this everything.
Sometimes there's comments that get posted that are.
Oh yeah. Well, we don't like those. Bad comments.
Yeah. Oh, that's just funny. Like, that's the opener. Is like, hey, we need mutual NDA.
Exactly. So your mates, as they say in Britain, right? Your boys. Yeah. It's like there's you've known them for years, right? They don't have they're not in the same position, right? And I was saying this earlier about like, what is their incentive to lie? Do they have something to gain? What is their reputation from their friends? It's like, once again, it's like these people clearly have something to lie, especially in the case like, this is something to said for prenups. It is a different argument. We're not in that world.
Well, but let me make an argument for prenup, which is it's actually exactly what you're talking about with signing this thing on the first date. Both are the reason why I would be for prenups, or why I was for many years I was asked to facilitate the prenup between athlete and spouse.
When your wife made you sign a prenup, is that what you're talking about?
No, mine didn't. But that's a whole.
She should have. But yes.
No, the point is your prenup should be signed when both people are happy.
Exactly, and that's the point. Once the battle lines are drawn. Right. Once the breakup happens, you can't make them sign an NDA. It's too late.
Any legal document.
It goes. Any
legal document. Exactly.
And honestly, too, any negotiation.
Once
you've already things.
That's the only way I could get these people to sign. It's like, look, you guys are in love. This is a good agreement. If something goes to shit, this thing goes out the window. This is the best time to do it.
Exactly. Ask Tiger Woods. I feel like this is.
Would you stop touching your microphone, by the way?
Sure.
Right. Yeah. Ask Tiger Woods.
Ask Tiger Woods if he regrets signing an NDA. It's like, I don't know if anybody's saying
he could be what a great poster child for the business. He's probably an avid listener of our podcast.
He is.
I would anticipate. So we only want a 15% royalty. Like if he signs up,
15, 16.
Oh yeah, thank you, negotiator.
Okay.
Yeah, now because it's so simpatico with us right now. Yeah, yeah. Do you have a document to protect me from him that I can get him to sign
I have a series of documents.
What a good plug for that. Okay, so we would be remiss to not talk a little bit about, and we're going to transition it back into business, but everyone talks about this Patriot way, right? And that was that your first team, right?
That was my first team. Yep.
So what is that, and what did it do to like in business? Like, what is that? Do you take anything away from it now as you look to, be the CEO, right?
Yep.
You're the CEO.
Okay. Yeah, no, 1,000%. I learned a ton. I feel that just even on the Uber drive down here, right? I learned a lot.
Speaking about that, I have to piss in a bottle right now. I might have to piss. I think I have to go piss. Time out.
I guess we're gonna. It's the most important part of the fucking.
Sorry, I'm gonna piss my pants.
The most important fucking question we asked is he was
Gonna get right back
I
at
know.
it.
I just want to give you shit.
I was gonna piss my pants.
Not only are your questions bad, but your timing.
Oh God.
God. This is the beauty of non-live content, and so we were. Of course, right when I get to the good stuff, Wynn abruptly, he interjects, which is great. Hey, you know what? That creates the mystery of the answer. And the question was originally, not that I really remember, but we were getting to the Patriot way and trying to understand that. And I know you've been asked this 1,000 times, and we're going to just jump right into that as well. But I'm curious because everyone talks about it. There's a lot of probably myth around it. There's probably a lot of truth around it. There's probably a lot of unknown around it. But what did it mean to you? And then we'll kind of piggyback that into some of the things that you're doing from an entrepreneurial, but football wise, and even life wise. What can people
How it
glean
applies to
from
business?
that?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. When it comes to the Patriot way and what I've learned from it, one of my first time sitting with Bill Belichick, who was a rookie. You come in, it was a rookie symposium, whatever. Eventually, Tom Brady comes in. My first meeting with him, he's a Michigan grad, and so I'm sitting right next to him, and after he's like ferociously writing notes, right?
Who?
Tom Brady.
Okay.
I'm sitting right next to him. And after we get done with the meeting, he's like, "Did you take notes?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I got notes. Probably a page." I'd already heard this speech because it was like kind of a recap of what he had already kind of like said to us. And he's like, "No, when he speaks, he's the most, he's the best coach of all time. It's the most important thing in the world." And I was like, "Whoa," it's just like, wow, like interesting. And so, that's a deeper, like, kind of not Zen, but like sort of philosophical approach towards life. Like whatever's in front of you is the most important thing in the world because like vibrationally it changes the whole interaction, right? And what you get from it. But, what it taught me was like kind of an approach towards Bill where it wasn't like, necessarily always just about football. It's about like business and life and philosophy and like an approach towards solving problems that he has to deal with. And something that I've learned amongst my travels or my time with the Patriots was Bill's approach towards, once again, problem solving and looking at people, right? Because like there's different strategies. Think about it. If you're a GM, you can pay a few people, your key players, marquee players, a bunch of money and then fill the salary cap up with like, kind of like lower level players, et cetera, et cetera. Bill's approach is a little different. See, he gets a bunch of like medium talent players for the most part, medium pay, et cetera, et cetera. And, he sprinkles in maybe a couple, one or two high level players and a couple low level players. But for the most part, it's like very, very like kind of like the middle of the road. And his thing is like, certain people are put on this earth to do certain things. You want your pilot to make your coffee and you want your barista to fly in your plane. It's like certain people are really good at doing certain things. And so let's just figure out like what the team is trying to do. Say it's third and long versus like second and short. And say, okay, first and short or third and short rather. It's like based on that situation, let's put personnel and people in that are really good at doing that specific thing. So if we're trying to throw a go ball, don't put somebody that's really good at slants to run the fade. It's like, let's put them in that sort of position. And as CEO of my company right now, it's like, that's really how I evaluate people and talent is like, it's like, and I ask myself this, it's like, what is this person really good at? And how do I put them in that best position to really flourish and just like, just let them rip. Just do
that's
that
coaching.
thing.
I would say that's the epitome of coaching. It's not forcing a system on a particular person. It's recognizing that person's talent and seeing where that fits for you.
6 Super Bowls.
Were there certain examples while you were there, because you played for so many different teams, that when you look back on your NFL career where you're like, man, there was just a distinct difference in the way that we ate breakfast before a game, the way that we did a team meeting? Is there anything that you could give us that's a little different than what we see as a common person who just sees the game for 3 hours, or maybe the highlights of an interview, but just like something that nobody would really know that maybe you would take away as something that was important post career that you're like, wow, that was different. And again, I use it from the standpoint of you didn't just play for the Patriots, so you do have 5 teams, and so you have comparison as to wow, we really did this different.
Yeah, I think that the proof is in the pudding, right? It's like I have my own opinions about stuff that I think puts players in the best position. I thought Coach McDaniels down at the Dolphins, I thought he did an excellent job. I loved playing for him. Like even times like there's stories that I can't share on the air, but it's like there's.
Oh, please do.
Yeah.
But when you see these clips of him now, that's very real.
Yeah,
right?
it's very real.
Okay.
And just like dealing with him is just like his philosophy towards like players and just like, like creating and Coach Stefanski on the Browns was the same way. Just like when I got there, it was such a change in attitude. I felt like on the Patriots the whole time, it was like, I had to like pretend to be something. It was almost like, they're like, it's very like, like rigid, like you have to conform, where it's like I'm like more open to the universe, like I just want to be myself.
Is that changing? Are you seeing, because you're seeing the Patriots now and you're seeing some of that erode to some degree, meaning if you're not winning and you have to be and you're rigid, shit doesn't work. Like if I'm running a culture and we're not producing, the culture is not going to be the same.
Tom
right?
Brady.
When you win, yeah, exactly, right? Like that's real.
I mean, Tom Brady, it's like part of his philosophy is like there's a certain thing, and I mean this respectfully because I texted him Merry Christmas, the other day, and he never answered me, unfortunately. So maybe he's just getting around to
it. He's probably a 2-week response.
Yeah,
guy.
yeah, maybe he'll get around to it when he's.
I picked him off twice in high school. Don't worry about it.
Who, Bill Belichick?
No, Tom Brady.
Oh, Tom Brady. Yeah, no, I'm talking about Bill Belichick here.
Yeah. We're not talking about high school football.
Yeah, that's pretty cool though. Picked on twice. I mean, that's.
When we start talking about high school stats, we'll
talk about Northwestern stats though.
Yeah, well, we don't have a lot of those to talk about.
Don't talk about those.
We don't want to talk about that. It'd be a short conversation.
I got paid a lot more money to play a sport than he did, and that's just the truth.
How so?
I played basketball for 2 years in Sweden. I got paid way more money than he ever got. About $5,000 to be in the Niners.
Yeah, the signing bonuses.
Yeah, so I
Still,
mean, technically, if we go 1, 2, 3 here,
he
was paid the most.
Let's talk about the numbers here.
He was paid the most. I'm paid the second, and you're the runt.
Oh, really?
Well, I'm just saying, salary-wise.
Do we want to talk?
No,
we don't want to do that.
You don't want to talk. I don't know what we're talking about, but I want to talk about it.
Yeah, I do it. I love that.
Go ahead.
Exactly.
No,
I want to talk about it. So
the tape doesn't lie. The P&L doesn't lie.
The eye in the
There's
sky.
a lot. There's a lot to talk about here. We have a lot to dive into.
The eye in the sky doesn't lie.
Yeah.
Always, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah,
hey, podcast halftime guy has a story he wants to talk about. Okay.
All right,
This
continue.
is not your podcast, sir. Yeah. If you want to talk about it, we sure can.
I wish it was.
Yeah.
All right, keep going.
Yeah. So we were.
Well, Mike McDaniel.
Mike McDaniel.
So
you were
at the tail end of the culture, the Patriot way, right? Like they had started to kind of transition a little bit away from Super Bowl every single year, and then you went to Mike McDaniel and some of the newer coaches. Do you see that as being a trend in the NFL? The younger guys that are culture, that are player first versus, hey, my way. We're going to be very rigid in how we do it.
Yeah, I think that systems can work if you have the right personnel.
Okay.
And part of Bill Belichick's philosophy, and once again, I was getting this earlier, but it's like, I mean this respectfully, it's like part of his whole thing is like there's a feeling around the end of camp where it's like, especially historically, where it was just like, there's going to be a series of cuts and there's a certain energy. It's like, even if, like I knew as a 3rd round draft pick, I wasn't getting cut, but I'm like, maybe I am, and that energy and that idea was part of his shtick, if you will. It's like sort of like, hey, listen, like anybody can get it. Anybody, anywhere. And it's like in meetings, like he would crucify people, and myself included some of the times. Like, it's just like I could have, 4 straight weeks of like flawless execution, but great performance. But that one game we lost, it's like, in front of everybody, you didn't want to be that person. And so that sort of fear was part of his thing. But on the other side of it was the optimism, right? So it kind of like, it was this like your roots have to go to hell so your branches can go to heaven, if you will. And Yeah, boom,
heard that.
mic drop. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so it's like it's like he had this.
Did he say that?
No, he didn't say that.
Oh,
but
you.
but my
Okay.
interpretation of it, and like so when you have Tom Brady, right, and you're winning these Super Bowls, it's like especially my rookie year, like with Tom, it's like it's like shoot, like the expectation was almost there. It's like this isn't in vain. Us getting crucified isn't for us to win 4 or 5 games.
We're going to win the Super Bowl.
This is to win the Super Bowl. This is not a sacrifice because it's not like we're getting nothing in return.
This is the process,
This
not
is
a
a trade.
sacrifice.
This is a trade. I'm trading this pain, this anguish, like to make me the best player I could be. But when you don't have that, you don't have that anchor, you don't have that belief, and you don't have that peace, that stuff kind of goes by the wayside in the process. It misses a piece. All of a sudden now you have this certain level of toxicity that builds up within your system that it's hard to account for, and it's hard to replace somebody like that is generational talent that is Tom Brady.
Yeah, well, at that position, what was more difficult, college camp or pro camp?
I'd say college camp.
Yeah.
Yeah, in different ways. I'd say the NFL camp is hard in its own way, but it's like it's
more mental.
It's more mental, right?
It's more mental because once again, playing for the Patriots, it's very like you never know, But like college is very it's hard because like in spring ball, for example, which isn't true.
When you're fighting for your position.
Well, you're fighting for your position, but it's also practice. If like with Jim Harbaugh, it's like it was 4-hour practices every other day, full pads. It's like that sort of like psychological, like you got to just keep going and going and going, and like right in the spring, and then you come back in camp, and it's like the same sort of like.
So go ahead.
Well, I asked this question in most every podcast. Was there a moment, high school, college, anytime in your life, where you felt broken, where you went through an experience, or it could be something in your personal life, could be something in sport, could be something family, anything, but almost everyone, there's a common thread that they got to what would, for most people, would break them. And when I say break, I mean it's the longevity in which they break. And it's just like, what was the most trying experience or time, and what was it, and then what did you do to get out of it?
You ask really great questions. Not saying Wynn doesn't.
No, he does.
You always
He's
have
good.
less, but
He studies.
No, he does. He knows his stuff. You can tell. I appreciate that. Thank you. I just want to say, so there was a time I'd say, and it's not how the script plays out, right? You look at society; they have their own kind of expectations, and sort of like they look at like myself, right? Like I just got accepted at Thomas Jefferson, my high school's Hall of Fame. Like I just retired. Like it's like
very cool.
Thank you. I don't mean it like that. It's just like it's like they look at it and they say like, oh wow, like this is so incredible. Like this is the way.
That's all they see.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But for me, it's like I consider myself very blessed because I feel that I'm more expansive than that in a certain way. And what I mean by that is that when I was on the Patriots, I led the Patriots in sacks in 2020. That same year, I was a starter, and I thought I was doing really good. One time, I wasn't going in the game, and I went up and asked the one coach. I said, "Hey, like, did I do something? Like did I mess something up or something?" Like he's just like, "No, it's just the game plan." And that was part of like Bill's thing. He had like game plans for certain personnel versus whatever. And I was like, "What's our game plan, to lose?" Like in my head, like like are we trying to blow the game? Like put me in the game. Like I'm a good player. It's like I'm a great player. It's like. And it was like that sort of yin and yang where it's like I had the expectation, I had the pressure from my family. It was like almost like they gave me something, right? They gave me this like this role and this responsibility, and it's like I loved it. I embraced it, and it was exhilarating, like like to do this and like to like feel it like taken away. And like some games I just like a couple games there's like 2 or 3 that I just really didn't go in the game that much.
Deflating,
right? And it's like almost like during that process, though, it was just like, once again, talk about high and low, right? It was like almost like they gave me this gift, this opportunity, and it was like at the same time they were just like ripping it from me. Mm-hmm. And I felt like my interactions with my family and friends, it was almost like I had lost something. Meanwhile I was a 7th-string tight end at Michigan. In my head it was just like like I had already accomplished way more than anybody from my high school. Like most of the.
But how fascinating is it that all this is wrapped up? What you're really explaining, this is wrapped up in your identity. This is the essence of
exactly.
You.
It stripped away my identity and how I viewed myself.
Yeah.
And that process was a bitch. And it was very painful for me. And it was like the culmination of a lot of like, going into college, some like, just negative feelings I had about myself. And like, it was just like, having that stripped away from me. It kind of like, it just like, it's not something that you like want to go through. It's like being thrown into an ice bath. Like you're like, waking up and having ice dumped on your head. It's like not something you like want, but you wake up and you're like, after it's done, you're like, wow, I'm pretty energized. Amazing. I feel amazing.
But you needed to go through the crucible.
Exactly.
But so you're the most difficult moment was being a superstar and being temporarily benched.
Yeah, yin and yang, like the yin and yang.
No. Yeah, it's the because you're really just battling your ego at that point.
Exactly, and that's 1,000%.
And being manipulated by a coach.
No, because it's not manipulation necessarily.
I think it is.
I mean, that's debatable. Maybe you can opine on that, but it really is. It goes to like you're on a linear path, and it's to the right and to the top. Right? And then there's a big break when you get high enough. And that's almost harder because when you're low and you get hit and you go to a 7th string tight end, it's not nearly as impactful to your ego.
Exactly.
Right? There's like
it's like I had lost something. I had fallen off, or like I had done something, it was just like
you got away a little bit from the core of who you are, right? Like just because you start to get really good and a lot of people tell you how great you are, and then when it comes down a little bit, I mean, there's just something to that, right? I think it's fascinating that's the answer. I think it's just because I have a follow up to this, and because I'm curious, is that ego in some ways helps you get to the pinnacle, and then in some ways it creates a boundary or a obstacle or something that you have to combat or think through. How do you view your ego? How do you view ego in general, specifically to a professional athlete?
Yeah, I'd say my journey is clearly, maybe everybody's journey is unique to themselves.
Yeah.
I'd say ego is important. I'd say ego is one of those things that everybody has it. It's like, I think there's a certain role involved with kind of like fostering a healthy sense of it. It's just like grounded in reality and like truth, if you will. It's like just kind of like observant. I think that, it's one of those things that, it's so nuanced and complicated. Like that alone is a whole podcast episode.
But that's good. I think that's a great answer. It's like knowing who you are and knowing yourself and not letting it, you have to almost think about it as I need to control it so it doesn't get above or below, like where I can use it as an asset, not a liability.
1,000%. I'd say that like fire, right? Fire is an interesting topic. I've thought a lot about this. It's just like fire in itself can roast you alive. It can burn you. It could burn all your bones and leave you in ashes, right?
Also save you.
Exactly. But it also can be pointed almost like a dragon, if you will. It's like, you direct it. It's part of a creative process. And it's like, I didn't ask for this directly, but maybe indirectly through prayer and whatever. It's like this process of fire. It's like, and through that process, it shaped who I was and the man that I became. And I know, and it's hard to describe an experience in words, but I know that like I was forever changed. And then that off season led to the situation in New Hampshire.
Yeah, sure.
To circle back. And it's like, it was almost like I had to go through that to get to that.
Well, I actually do really want to know more about New Hampshire. Why did you end up going there? And then walk us through those 2 months and some of the things, like the pillars of what you were able to discover and how you were able to discover it.
Yeah, so in the off season, I started up a production company called House 17, still in operation today. Business is doing great.
What do they produce?
Produce social media content. So we work with somebody. We do brand strategy, social media content. So if you want to do like TikTok videos, we produce Julian Edelman's podcast, and a couple other people's as well. My thing was, I started this podcast up, found a couple of partners, and the production company was located in Portsmouth, New Hampshire. And so I took a trip up there. I'm like, I'm going to go see what the HQ is all about up here. It's only an hour and a half from Foxborough where I was living. And I was living there and I'm like, there's something about this place that it's hard to put your finger on, but it's special. So I did some research. Turned out Teddy Roosevelt. If you guys like history? Yeah. So Teddy Roosevelt, early in the 1900s, the only foreign war settled on domestic soil was the Russo-Japanese War. So Russians and the Japanese were fiercely at combat with each other. They came there, if my memory serves me correct, they were talking for about 2 weeks, couldn't get anywhere. They were like, hey, listen, let's just go out on the town. Let's take a break. They went to some plays. They had some drinks. They, kumbaya. They came back together like, this is not worth it, guys. Like that's, let's call it a day. But it was interesting because like Teddy Roosevelt, who I admire, I think he's a pioneer in his own right. He chose Portsmouth, New Hampshire, of all places, to do this, to bring these people to. And it's either by accident, or not. And I don't think it was. So
what are your biggest takeaways looking back on it today?
From
your 2 months,
my experience there, I'd say
like holistically, I guess.
Yeah,
would you say? Or
1,000%. It's I got an iOS upgrade. I got an iOS download. I don't know how to describe it other than that. It's like my beard grew thicker, my posture grew more erect. Like I always used to have like belly fat at like the bottom of my belly, like my like it began to see those abs. Like my experience.
It couldn't have just been by showing up to New Hampshire though. What were the things that you were doing to get like more complete as a man? I don't know. Like, what were you doing? Like, what were you around or associated with?
Yeah, so we had a private chef. We had it's sometimes when you deal with this certain things, it's like you talk about like Michelangelo, or I'm pretty sure he made the statue, but there's a quote about the statue of David, and they're like, "How'd you make this thing? Out of stone?" And he's like, "Well, it's easy. I just removed all the parts that weren't needed.
Body.
Yeah, it's just like weren't part of the vision. It was easy, and it's I think a lot of it is like that. Just having like I said, the chef there, my workouts planned, and like my team around me. It was like almost like it was just like I was able to allow myself to come to that fruition. And
so you were far enough away, but enough in it to where you had a chance to kind of take a step back from your life that you had the chaos of normal life, but you were far enough away, but still able to do the things that you needed to do to feel like responsible.
Exactly. And there's some conscious alterations that were, I'd say part of that process.
Like what?
Some things that you can't really speak about on a podcast, but
yeah,
things you find in the earth and like, vegetables and stuff,
Okay. Yeah, that's good. That's good. Great answer.
Familiar.
Yeah.
No, it's important. It's interesting because a lot of culture and a lot of the government, right? They try to control things. And when you have self-realization, and there's certain things from the earth that can inspire self-realization, I think that's very, very important and very dangerous for some who are trying to control masses.
What do you think with Aaron Rodgers? He's kind of made like ayahuasca popular, and he's also kind of shed some light on alternative, I don't know if it's medicine or alternative ways in which you can experience mind and body.
And healing.
And just maybe talk, not necessarily about yourself, but the way that you would look at that. Or
swim, as they say, someone who isn't me.
Yeah, there you go.
Someone who isn't me would
so where you can speak more freely and more generically.
1,000%. Someone who isn't me would argue that, listen, certain things are found in the ground. Certain things expand your consciousness in ways that's hard to articulate. Our mind is a byproduct of our survival. Our mind sits in the dark. It has 5 senses that collect all this information. Right? Some things you input in your body, it changes the way your brain works. It connects neurons that otherwise would have never been connected, dots that you would have never seen. Most people think linearly. All of a sudden now you're seeing things, you're connecting things, you're envisioning yourself in a way that you never were able to get past. And some things you put in your body, they flood your body with serotonin, most of which is made in the gut. All of a sudden now you're not looking at it from your amygdala, the point of fear. You're looking at it from a place of possibility. And it's that's a dangerous place to be, to think outside the box, to think outside these parameters that have kind of been placed on us. I mean, the simple question is this: it's like, why do they not teach mindfulness in school? It's like as a nationwide
issue of control.
Maybe I think too, because there's no way to rate like specific. Like we're in a school system that is completely flawed, and part of that is because you have to rate or judge every single thing. So if you were talking about mindfulness, like how would you give someone a grade?
1,000%. Well, this kind of goes back to the overarching thing, and it's one of those things that is tricky to articulate, but thankful for big brains like ourselves. We can,
us little brain over here.
No,
but the other thing, because I look at mindfulness as the same thing as sales. Sales in school is not taught, but it's you got to generate revenue to have a business. So how is it not taught? It just doesn't make any
exactly the
sense.
same.
Is sales taught on the field though? Could you make an argument that sales has been taught on the practice field, or how in the context of a team?
Yeah, I mean, sales is it is. But people spend so much time, money, and energy in traditional schooling.
Yeah.
Why is revenue generating not a massive part of it? Yeah. Because honestly, like those that can generate revenue create their own lives, no matter what they do. If you can sell and you generate revenue, you do whatever you want. That's the way of the world to me. Like you have a business if you can generate revenue. If you don't, you have an idea.
Yeah.
Like that's it.
Fair.
So
yeah, that's a great perspective. I'd say everything in the universe has an origin. And we talked about earlier about like dinosaurs and humans, et cetera, but the school system is no different. It was designed for a certain purpose. And, in the case of, it's like what we have now is really a vestige of that. And it's hard to, and I was listening to the governor of New Hampshire talk about potential expansion of
vocational schools.
Yeah, different types of schools, et cetera. But it's it's hard to measure. How is one type of schooling system better than another? Montessori schools versus the traditional. It's hard to measure, right? It's hard to quantify.
Yeah.
And my thing is that, it was designed for people to sit down, take information, make them good factory workers and try to absorb as much information as they can and regurgitate it on a test. It wasn't made for them to think and to operate. And I feel like, we're entering this new era, if you will, where it's almost like we're being challenged to expand beyond those, like I said, vestiges and expand to the fullest potential of ourselves and just our faculties, if you will.
Totally agree. One of the things that we like to cover on this podcast is squeezing the most out of our opportunity in life, right? And that can go a lot of different directions. What are some things that you do, whether it's health, whether it's mental, but give us some specifics on things that are driving your success today. And what I mean by that is when you're playing in any sort of organized sport, people are telling you what to do. And then you take this journey on your own of you get to do things that you want to do. So what are you doing after being told what to do for a lot of years of your life? Now, basically graduating into on your own. How are you flying? How are you excelling? What are you doing that is maybe specific that people that are listening can glean from or learn from or even just think about?
Number one is that I'm doing what I love. That's the first and foremost thing. It's
which is what though?
Which is being the CEO of this company and just, pioneering and using technology to solve problems that were relevant to me and eventually expanding upon that. It's for me, it's I felt, feeling this is almost I have this feeling I was put on this earth to do this certain thing, and it's I wake up and it's such a blessing. It's not even work. I'll work myself to the bone and push myself to those limits. And I'm using that sort of fire, that intensity, but just channeled in a different arena, if you will. And so I'd say that's the first and foremost thing, because, if you could put yourself in that position, it's you don't have to fake anything. It's nobody has to tell you have to work. It's if you want to be a video producer, if you want to be a musician, if you want to be a coffee, barista, then it's if that's what you feel just you wake up and you just love it, you want to be the best that you can be at that thing, then it's there's nothing really holding you back from that. It's you spend your free time researching, listening to people talk about what are the best formulas to make coffee, which beans are the
difference
best.
of a bean, espresso versus drip.
Exactly.
That's a huge thing.
It's hard to be a fanatic, as they say. And it's I just feel first and foremost, it's I'm a fanatic. I love business. I love strategy. I love that's why playing with Coach Belichick was so fun, because it's he was a master tactician. He understood his pieces, his chess pieces, if you will. He understood, or his military pieces. It's he understood how they interacted with each other on the field versus what the opponent was trying to do.
Birth from special teams, which I think is very important. That's why I think he was so meticulous.
Exactly.
Because he started from special teams.
Exactly. And then secondly, I'd say there's some things that are free. And there's two things that really come into mind. Or number one, nutrition. I'd say nutrition is one of those things that, it's nobody made you put that donut in your mouth. It's you did that to yourself. And I think that sometimes it doesn't need to be so dramatic where you have to revolutionize your life. Just ask yourself the simple question: is this made from Earth, or is this made by humans?
Yeah.
It's if you could eat food that was made by Earth, whether you're a vegan or you're a carnivore, I have my feelings on that. I think carnivore is a better way to go personally, but it's like you're gonna be a certain level of health that you won't be if you just stick to the middle of the grocery aisle and you eat like food that's packaged and branded in such a way, but ultimately it's going to lead you to your ill health. And then the second part of that is cold showers.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things that's so free. Like you're already taking a shower. You can start warm. You can start, have it hot, let it go down your back. But then when you're going out, it's just a challenge to yourself that, just turn all the way cold as it can get, ideally. But just like if you can't start there, start a little warmer. But it's like you sit there and you just let the pain just go through your body, and you just force yourself to relax and to breathe and just to let it all go, because it's a stressor. If you could deal with that stress, then you could deal with other stress that's in your life too, because it's a certain response of your system.
That's 100%. And you introduced me to cold baths a little bit, Case. And the one thing that was very difficult for me the first time I get in a cold bath, I couldn't do it, right? But when you said force, I would almost disagree with you in a way, or maybe just misinterpret. But for me, when someone taught me, I was reading an article about cold baths, and when they taught me to try to remember a stressful moment and defeat it, and it's the mentality of the cold bath that's way more important than the physical nature of the cold bath that makes it so important.
Exactly.
But
you have to develop that.
You have to develop
it. Otherwise, you won't be able to sustain it.
You won't be able to sustain it. The mentality is so important, and I think it's critical. Cold showers, I think it's done a lot for me. It really has.
Yeah, and it's just, I feel every time I take one, it's like it's like my focus and my energy. It's like
it goes up.
It just skyrockets.
I'm like 6-7 months into cold plunging in sauna, and
it's real.
I love it. Yeah, once you start doing it and you start to exercise that like reaction to the pain, you start to kind of embrace it. You're like, it's like you said,
it's exactly right. It's like it becomes addicting.
Exactly right.
It becomes addicting because it's not the 3 minutes. The 3 minutes, for at least the first minute, it sucks no matter what. Right. And then the other 2 minutes you can kind of tolerate. Then you get out and you're like, that rush. Yeah. You can't beat it.
Yeah. You can't.
And you start to really get addicted to that rush. Yeah. It's like winning, right? Like winning, there's some like level of addiction to winning where you want to do what it takes to win and those types of things. And we talk about that a lot on the podcast as far as like winning, what it looks like and how do you do it. But there is certainly a component. There's a physical component and then a mental component to winning, right? And so I think cold is both.
Yeah, no, 1,000%. And I use the example of shower because it's like shower's a little different because you could dunk your head in an ice bath, but sometimes they have chlorine in them or they're dirty. It's like, it's like where it's like a shower you can get actually on your scalp. And it's like, it's just a different level of rush.
I actually think a cold shower is more difficult than the cold bath.
In a different way.
I do. I think it's like getting peppered with cold is a little bit more intense, but when you're sitting in like an isolated bath,
suggest your
body, I think your body adjusts a little bit differently. So I don't know. That's actually really non-scientific, but I just don't like the shower.
It's an opinion. It's
an expert analysis. I like it because not all showers are like created equal either. Some are way colder.
Not all water is created equal.
Well, that's true. But it's like I do one spin around and then one spin around the other way, and I just sit with it like right on my forehead or top of the scalp. Like
for how long?
Just until I feel that inner bitch. Just
no, we got to do it past that. Yeah. You gotta let the inner bitch keep going, right?
Well, eventually it dissipates. Eventually it's like,
right.
Eventually I'll go through a phase. It's like there's a script. It's like you do it and it's like you're sitting there and it's like the inner bitch will come out and it'll tell you. It'll feel like you're literally like if the water's cold enough, right? You put ice on at the top of the thing, and you sit there. It's like it's gonna feel like you're dying. Like it literally feels like that painful because your whole like especially on your brain, it feels like your whole head is freezing. And it's like you just sit there. And you just like, you tell yourself, like, if I die here, I die. Like, it's just like that sort of like, and then it's like.
Does that come from football? Did you used to do that? Was there a level of. Like,
you had to. You had to. That sort of attitude I felt like was like at my best, right? I was like, I was able to feel that I was disposable, that I would be able to run through a wall or hit somebody.
Indisposable.
No, disposable. Disposable. Like, as in like. It could go. Like I could die here, and it's like if that's what it takes. Like sure. I was at my best.
That doesn't.
But once you start worrying about health and like your head,
no, that goes away. Then you get hurt,
and then it manifests.
Then you get hurt,
and then it's like it's like once you start, it's the beginning of the end.
And the older that you get, it's more mind than it is body, especially in business. Right? There's very little that you're going to do as a CEO that's physical. I mean, there's only been several times I've had to like arm wrestle another CEO for a deal. I won, but there's very few
got
times
the
that
deal. That's why
happens.
you're here. That's why you're here.
But also too, it's like sometimes you have to differentiate yourself, and you'll say, "Hey, I'll arm wrestle you for the deal."
Yeah.
But that's not a.
It's like, I didn't know that it was a thing.
Well, you could. I don't know that. By the way, I don't know if CEOs are going to take you up. Yeah.
Maybe a couple years later.
I'll put that in my pocket.
So what are some things that you want to do over the next 5 years? Maybe not just business, but personal business, life-wise. What are next steps for Chase?
Yeah. So my thing is, I feel like as a society, we're just kind of pointing our swords at each other, if you will. And what I mean by that is like,
Wynn, take it easy. Last time he pointed a sword at someone.
So it happened. Wynn's a little freaky though.
I know. Cool. He's pointed his sword at things. And,
That's a large sword.
A lightsaber.
Yeah.
It's a scimitar.
Doesn't work anymore. He's too old.
Cool.
Sponsored by.
Popcorn guy just canceled us.
Before you answer the deep esoteric questions that you're asking, which I appreciate, I've never seen you so deep, and I want to just give you a compliment. You've actually grown since the last time we've done a podcast.
I feel like you guys are bonding and healing.
I really want to. I need to give him a compliment. But can I just have a big question real quick. Sure. Do you think that Michigan's going to beat Alabama?
Yes.
Score.
Give me a
score prediction.
Yeah.
For us,
21-0.
Come on.
I think Alabama's lucky to get on the board.
Really? 21-0?
I mean, the boys are just galvanized. I feel like, football past is the past, right? We're talking.
We had it was a crimson red couch, but we swapped it out because we knew you were going to.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah. The other one's in the other room. We're like,
I thought it was in the dumpster.
There's no fucking way you're going to sit on a crimson couch. No way.
No, I wouldn't touch that.
Yeah, I know exactly. We're like, hey, we don't want you to come all the way down here.
Though, because obviously being from the Big Ten, you know that the biggest issue you've always had is speed. Like if you play an SEC school, it's like the speed is always a problem.
Speaking of Northwestern, hey, we played. I just want to say real quick, we played the University of Chicago back in the day, University of Michigan.
You did.
And we beat them so. There's levels to this, right?
Yeah.
We beat them so bad that they disbanded their football program.
Yeah, that's true.
There's actually been a couple of times where we got beat so bad in Division I where I was like, honestly, I was physically gifted enough to be able to play, but it was the lines. The difference between a good Division I and a lot of the shitty ones are like the big guys are so big and there's so many of them.
The D-line.
Yeah, no, it'll be interesting. Alabama's obviously going to put up a fight. It's not going to be an easy 21.
But you think this is the year that Michigan does smash?
Yeah,
and you're not speaking from your heart.
Regardless of score, I mean, I'm not putting money on it. Okay, I'm not putting any money on it, so I'm not telling anybody.
What is the spread if you were going to put money on it? Do you know?
I don't know what the spread is. I would guess it's
minus 2. I think
Michigan
minus 2.
Michigan
yeah,
minus 2.
Oh, really?
Minus 3.5. It might go to minus 3.5.
Yeah, so clearly, there's obviously people that are playing that hey, Michigan has the edge here. I just feel like for whatever reason, my intuition, right, tells me that
there's also a sense of tradition with Michigan and the Rose Bowl. There's a sense of comfort there, right?
There's a sense of comfort. It helps us, and it's just like I said, Michigan's team feels different too. It's almost like
they've definitely gelled. I mean that the whole controversy. Which, by the way, I don't know. I remember we had a coach stealing signs, all that bullshit. Yeah, I think that's the NCAA trying to
also social media. There's pictures of people.
But this is the NCAA trying. They are so messed up right now. I really feel like this is an example of the NCAA trying to once again initiate authority because they're losing it. They don't know what's going on. Yeah. So I think that was complete bullshit. I don't know what your opinion on that was, but
I mean, the way they went about it seems very
wrong.
Very unprofessional to me. I felt that Michigan being the best Big Ten team, 3 years in a row making the college football playoffs, to go after them in this manner seemed not very wise.
Jim Harbaugh pissed somebody off, didn't he?
I mean, I don't know who he pissed off or what happened.
He has been known to.
Yeah. When your light shines bright, people do one of three things:
Absolutely.
either they be attracted to it, blinded by it, or they try to put it out.
Yeah, that's right.
And,
that's a good point.
And so his light, shines bright, and sometimes try to put that out. And unfortunately for them, they got Michigan messed up. So
yeah.
You're right.
Michigan wrong. So yeah, it'll be an interesting game. I'm excited for it.
Well, this is going to air a couple of days after the game. So
21-0.
21-0.
Yeah.
I think it'll be a little bit closer. I think it's going to be 28-17. I think there's going to be more points. I know defenses are really good, but the Rose Bowl. I think there'll be more points. It's
maybe,
college.
Maybe more points.
Yeah.
The
2017, I still think
the
Michigan.
essence, the statement is whether it's
and a
20
cover.
It's
And a cover.
it's
And a
Michigan's-
For those
it's
of
Michigan's
us
turn.
that
It's
maybe
Michigan's
dabble
turn.
in that. Yeah. Well, that was good. Awesome.
Yeah, thanks
Well,
for having me
listen,
on, guys.
Yeah, thank you very much for for joining us. I do have to make a pause and remember that, hey, Casey, we're on every platform, so you can download us. We're on YouTube, we're on Spotify, we're on Instagram. If you want to DM us or DM, Chase a question, that's totally fine. But
Yeah,
again,
maybe Chase, if you could just tell us name of the company again, where we can find the
for
company,
sure.
and like any different things that we like. If we want more information, we talked about a lot of different things. Most of it being personal, some football stuff, but
Cool blend.
Yeah, a great blend. And then business side, like there'll be some people hopefully that would want more information. Where would we find?
Yeah, so the app is called Signet, like the ring. Kings used to stamp like the ring to authenticate, like, hey, this is me that's actually signing
still
it.
do.
So exactly. Wynn still does. That's why he's a big fan of the app.
In his own mind, he's famous too. So yeah.
Exactly. And he's got a big sword, apparently.
and that's where we'll end
That's
it.
actually the ego.
Yeah,
just the ego.
exactly.
Yeah.
Not the
Exactly.
id, just the ego.
Yeah.
Exactly. So yeah, Signet signing on the App Store. You could download it today. Give it a
Both
whirl.
Apple and
But yeah, it's just Apple right now. But
Okay.
we're working on getting an Android developer and just really scaling it out. I love
awesome.
that.
But again, thank you very much.
Yeah,
This
Chase,
will
thanks. That was
take
awesome.
a wrap.
Thank you guys. It's a
And
pleasure.
this is it. Thank you.